Alrighty, so this is the introduction to the cannabis industry video webcast. I'm so happy that you're all here. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's going to be the first of many webinars that I'll be hosting, that Humble Flower Farms is going to be hosting, which is my farm that I am doing in partnership with my beautiful girlfriend, Joanna. And we're going to see where this goes. So a bit about myself. Again, my name is Paul Anthony Edwards. I studied medicinal and economic botany at Rutgers University. I've been working in the greenhouse industry, though, for about 6 years now. I started at my local greenhouse in Lawrence, New Jersey, and I have been in greenhouses ever since. I moved from New Jersey to Oklahoma 2 years ago to start my career in the cannabis industry, and it has had a lot of ups and downs and ebbs and flows, but I've learned a lot along the way, and so I'm here to share that information with you guys. And my most notable accolade was on my last harvest. I hit 28% THC, which if you don't have an idea of how much that is and you're not familiar with THC percentages, think about an edible. A good dose to start out someone on an edible is about 10 milligrams to 20 milligrams. An equivalent of that would be 280 milligrams in an edible. So it was pretty potent, did pretty good on that standard, something that I'm proud of, and something that, you could share and be like, oh, okay, he has grown before. Some things that we can expect from this presentation is we're going to go over the current status of the market, the job market, and how to find jobs and resources to getting a job in the job market. Goal setting, expectations when you are working in the market, pitfalls to avoid, research topics, and we're going to end in the later half of the presentation with steps to building your business. What we won't be going over, this is not a how to grow weed webinar. We are going to be doing a separate webinar for that later on. This is not about making edibles or processing. And for legal reasons, disclaimer, I am not a lawyer and I am not an accountant. I don't have a CPA. Everything that I say, you should just take knowing that and having that in mind. So assessing the current landscape, cannabis is a Schedule I drug, which the classification for that means it's a high potential for abuse, no medicinal uses. Today we saw that the House approved the decriminalization for marijuana, so obviously this is a flawed argument, and we are going to be changing that hopefully soon. It is fully legal in many states, medicinal use in some states, while CBD, a product of cannabis, is legal in all 50 states. So you probably see CBD gummies and pens in your local gas stations or head shops. That is a product of the cannabis plant, although it is used for medicinal purposes and won't get you high. Hemp is also legal in all 50 states, and you can cross state lines with hemp. It is cannabis, although it is not the same kind of cannabis that you and I refer to as marijuana. It is a little stockier, and it is used mainly for the fibers that are within the hemp plant, and it is used in clothing, textiles, building, construction, stuff like that. Where if you look on this side, this is a cannabis plant in the final weeks of flower that will be going to a dispensary or a processor, and that will be smokable flower and test high that we will call marijuana. That's all jargon. Cannabis is hemp, is marijuana. Don't be confused with the name. So here are the states where cannabis is currently legal in. These states are not fully legal. Some of them are medicinal. Some of them have a lot higher restrictions than other. I'm in Oklahoma, where we are a medicinal market. You have to have a medical marijuana card in order to purchase marijuana at a dispensary, versus somewhere like California or Colorado, where you have to be of age and then you can walk into a dispensary and walk out with your product. Like I said, things are going to be changing, so we'll see where this goes. Jobs available in the cannabis industry. If you are looking to start a job in cannabis, you'll hear a lot the term seed to sale. This is the process of starting your cannabis plant from your seed and then all the way to sale, post-sale, production, and what you'll see after that. So I've highlighted some of the jobs here, and I kind of want to work backwards here. So I've gotten the question a lot of, hey man, how do I become like a professional roller like Snoop Dogg has? And that guy gets paid like 50 grand a year just to roll Snoop Dogg, like 50 blunts a day. And it is a job that you can get along with product tester of just trying different people's products. If you can get that job, it's a very hard, very difficult job to snag. You got to be in the industry for a while or just know Snoop Dogg. And then working backwards again, entrepreneur, making your own business, not an easy thing to do. Federal jobs, working for the compliance organizations, working with the government to help legalize cannabis. Being a consultant, once you have a grasp of the industry, accounting and law, obviously you need specialized degrees for. Testing, as in laboratory testing, making sure that your weed has a percentage associated with it. How much of the weight of a gram of marijuana is THC? So when I had that marijuana strain that was testing at 28%, 28% of the weight of that plant was THC. They also make sure that you're health compliant, making sure that there's no mold or bud rot in there. So when it gets to the dispensary, it's healthy for us to consume. Chef, these are often personal chefs or event chefs, different than people who are producing edibles. Operations management, corporate, again, these are people that have worked in the industry for a while, have their management and leadership positions down. Event coordination, things like Cannabis Cup and High Times Cup. Somebody has to run those things, and that's a pretty cool job. Breeder is someone who's been growing marijuana, wants to take two strains and combine them to make a new strain. So forbidden fruit is, I believe, tangy and cherry pie. Someone took those two, bred them together, pollinated one versus the other, and found the best one out of those seeds, and they came up with forbidden fruit. Processor is someone who takes the cannabis plants, turns them into edibles, distillates, waxes, different products you might find in the dispensary. And then moving into jobs that are easier to get into, but still need a high level or a higher level of specialization. Growing and farming. If you don't know how to grow a plant, you're not going to get a position as a grower. Harvesting, this is on industrial scale operations. Usually they have hundreds of thousands of plants or thousands of plants that they have to chop down all at once. Broker is someone who works in between a farm and a dispensary, acts as a middleman and gets a percentage of how much marijuana was sold to the dispensary. An investor, I put in this category because it requires capital, but not really specializations. You don't need to know much about the cannabis industry in order to be an investor, but it's helpful too. So you know that who you're investing in and what you're investing is a solid product. And then you can go into videographer, photographer, marketing, media market, all that. You got to know how to use your camera and edit. So obviously that takes some specialization. And baker for those who want to be in the edible industry. Obviously, you need to know how to do that correctly. Now moving into these four, which is the entry-level positions, which I know a lot of you are here to talk about and understand. Nursery worker, trimmer, sales associate, and bud tender. So when talking about a nursery worker, we're talking about a local flower nursery like the one I worked at 6 years ago. Pros of this job: you're learning how to work with plants. You're understanding the plant's needs and requirements, of course, and learning to be gentle in a certain way with a plant. Learning about greenhouse environments. I've met a lot of people that have said, I want to be a grower, and then they get into a grow room and realize how uncomfortable and humid and bright it is and just turn the other way because they were like, this is not what I want to do. So working as a nursery worker will help you understand the environment and get used to it. Mediums, fertilizers, and containers. Mediums means what kind of soil you're using. Are you using an organic soil? Are you using a soilless peat moss mix? It's made out of forest materials. Fertilizers, of course, what the plant is using to grow, and the different containers that they'll need to grow in, especially transplanting is a huge thing that you should learn how to do correctly. And of course, you're going to be learning about plant science, what a plant needs to grow, what fertilizers it needs to grow. You get a better understanding of NPK, which is what every plant needs to grow, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And you learn about plant anatomy, which is always helpful. Some cons of this job is obviously you're not working with cannabis. You're going to be working with petunias or hydrangeas, just normal flowers. And this is usually a minimum wage job, plus or minus a couple bucks, depending on how good of a job you do. You can do this job for 3 to 6 months. And if you are working every day to understand what you're doing, that should be enough experience to get you into a grow position if you're lucky enough to find someone who'll scoop you up. That's not unheard of. But you at least need this basis because there's a lot to learn there. Cannabis trimmer. This is someone who, after the cannabis is harvested, is cleaning the bud up. So it looks pretty for the dispensaries, also looking for things like bud rot to make sure that it is safe to go get tested. Pros of this job, obviously you're working with cannabis. So hooray for that. If your cannabis industry around you is already booming, then you're going to be able to find this job a lot easier. You're going to learn how to quality check flower. So if you are going to be working in a dispensary after or a brokerage, you can understand what quality flower looks like, how to keep all the THC crystals on a plant while trimming. And another great thing is it usually pays pretty good. $100 per pound is not unheard of around here. That's pretty average. Anywhere from 50 to 150, depending on who you're working for. And as you get better at trimming, you get faster. So, you can easily be trimming, a pound an hour, and that'll be a nice, couple $100 a day. Obviously, you slow down towards the end of the day, but still lucrative. And it's great for people with flexible schedules who can take a period of time off. So if you're in sales or serving, or personal trainer, you can take that time off that you need to go do this job and get hands-on experience. Some cons about this job, that it is an as-needed job, which means you are only going to be hired when someone has product to trim. So you might work from the 1st to the 5th of the month for 5 days straight and make good money there, but you might not work until the 20th, and you might only work for 1 or 2 days up to 2 weeks, depending on how they have their grow set up. Long hours. Cannabis, once it's off the vine, is a time-sensitive product because you don't want the water to saturate the bud. That it leads to mold. You don't want to keep it untrimmed for a while. So whoever you're working for is going to ask you to work long hours so they can move all of their product out swiftly. And something very important to know about this job is it gets really, really boring after, a while. After that honeymoon period of working with weed phase off, you're going to be sitting there and just bucking plant after plant, and it does get tedious. The good thing about it, though, is usually you can put in a set of earbuds, listen to a podcast about growing marijuana or whatever, you want to get into, and use your time wisely, or just jam out. Sales associate. This is a position that I highly recommend if you have the correct stores around you. Head shops would be a good spot, places that sell bongs and smoking accessories and things of that sort. And hydroponic stores or grower stores. This is stores that are specifically targeted towards people growing cannabis. I'm not talking about Home Depot, although you will understand products. People who are growing cannabis won't usually be growing in the same potting mix that they're growing their flowers in. Miracle-Gro, I would not recommend to grow cannabis in. And that's what you find in a lot of department stores. So with that in mind, you are in the right store. You're learning about the best products in the market for cannabis growers. And you are not even touching the plant, but you're fully getting the immersive experience of learning what a plant needs. The uses of these products, the quality of the products versus others, you're learning sales experience, how to talk to customers, how to direct them towards what they need. If someone is looking for an organic fertilizer, you could talk to them about that because you're going to be gaining that knowledge on the job. Oftentimes, you'll also get discounts and samples like this. This is called Fish Shit. It is a fertilizer that is a sample that was given out when I was working at a hydroponic store. And I love these guys. So I'm not sponsored by these guys, of course, but this is something that they would give out, so that the sales associates might be able to use it to better tell the customers how they work. And obviously, they want you to talk good on their product. And most importantly, you're meeting people in the industry. You are talking to growers and dispensary owners alike that are actually working at it, and they will tell you all about their business. They will, tell you how they're doing, what sales they made, the products that they're using, because obviously you're helping them find it. And you meet some really, really intriguing people that you can learn something from. Cons about this job: again, you're not working with the cannabis plant, but with the experience that you're gaining, it's worth it. And again, this is usually a minimum wage job depending on your experience. Now, bud tender, everybody wants to be a bud tender. It's a great position, especially if you are owning or planning to own your own dispensary. This is a job that also requires a lot more. So just breaking this job down, you get to work with the cannabis flower and the products. So every processing facility that is making products that is being sold, you have to thoroughly understand what those products are. Understanding customer wants versus needs. This is a big one because the 23-year-old Rastafarian is not going to need the same product as the elderly lady coming in for her glaucoma. And there is a difference in that. And, you have to make those right recommendations. Don't stick grandma with the 200 milligram edible, or she will never come back. And she will probably never smoke marijuana or use marijuana products again. Learning about product quality, of course. You are, able to look at a flower, for instance, and see, okay, this is top shelf flower. I have this stamped in my head that this is what we should be looking for versus Reggie or low quality bottom shelf flower, which usually you get deals and specials on. Working directly with the end user, whether you're in a medical market or recreational market, this is a beautiful thing because you are learning what people actually are wanting in the industry. You get to see it in real time and use that for your own benefit to both help them out in getting what they need and taking notes for yourself about what you might want to look for in your own business. Of course, you're gaining sales skills. You might get discounts, again, like the grocery store, you might get hooked up. And I didn't put a cons list for this. I put requirements because there are definitely requirements for this. Cannabis product knowledge is a must, of course. Know strains, know what different products will do for you, how an edible reacts with your body versus how dabs and wax react with your body versus how a joint will or a pre-roll. Cannabis plant knowledge is also highly recommended. The chemicals that are organically produced by the plant are called terpenes, and these dictate how the plant is going to react with your body. So aside from THC alone, which is the chemical that gets you that high feeling, this is what differentiates a sour diesel plant from an Afghan Kush or a Blue Dream. The terpenes are what makes the experience. So understanding them, which we'll go over in a different lecture, is critical. And of course, you're going to need some sales skills to start with. So now that that's out of the way, I would like to gear the presentation towards making and setting goals and building your business around it. Whether you are actually looking to build a business or just set goals for yourself to get into the position that you need, like a bud tender requires a lot more. These are the big ideas that we want to convey, right? So things like, I want to own my own dispensary, or I want to grow marijuana professionally. I want to have a brand of my own edibles, or I just want to be like Wiz Khalifa and just be rich and smoke weed. Like, that's cool too. Just write that down. Make sure that you're writing it down. And if you don't get anything else from this presentation, this is what you want to get. Obviously, this should be realistic and in the values that you find. Now, let's take, I want to grow marijuana professionally. Break that down into a set of smaller goals. So first off, you have to understand the cannabis plant and the plant science behind it. You have to learn about different growing styles and methods, whether you're going to be an organic grower, hydroponic, aquaponic. There's lots of different ways to do it. Location, logistics, and law. Where are you going to grow? Is it legal there? How are you going to get it there? And then seed to sale care and compliance, making sure that you're doing everything so the government is happy with what you're doing. So talking about objectives, we take that big goal, we break it down into smaller goals, and we have to break that down further, and that's how we get our objectives to solving that goal. So if you had a goal and don't know how to get there, this is how you do it. You take one smaller goal and you break it down into the topics that you will need to research. So for, I want to grow marijuana professionally, understanding cannabis and the plant science behind it, you're going to need to know at least about the big 4 things that a plant needs: nutrients, water, environment, and light. And you can go off into those different avenues and really explore them. There's, of course, lots of things that you can get into, but this isn't a cannabis growing podcast or webinar, so we'll save that for a different day. When it's time to write your business plan, this is the thing that is going to best represent what you want to do. This is your goal written down on a piece of paper. It encompasses your vision and allows you to execute that vision. And without giving you a template to write a business plan, just write down these things, the 5 W's and the how. So who's going to be running your company? Are you going to be doing it? Are you going to be trusting your buddy to do it? Are you going to form a team around you to do it? Who's going to be working? If you want a dispensary, how many bud tenders do you need? How many managers do you need? Along with that, you also want to think about who is going to be your target demographic. This is can be exemplified by saying the medical market versus the recreational market. I could say I want to produce really tasty bud and really tasty flower. Yuri, get off my string. Really tasty flower. And versus a medical person that will say, I want to make a product for cancer patients. So that's, something you want to differentiate from. Potency of products, of course, and supply, how you're going to get it there. I don't know how to take that off, but we can ignore that for now. So the W, the what are you going to be selling? Obviously, if you write down your goals, this is going to be easier to figure out. Thank you. What resources will you need to get your business into production? What are the build-out supplies that you're going to need? Your product, of course, equipment and machinery, and the land and building that you're going to be, of course, occupying. Creating a timeline of your business is also essential. Permits don't take 2 days to process. They usually take a month or longer. Fundraising, how you're going to get the money to start your business. You have to make a timeline for that. Build out is a big one. People don't expect things to not be available to them in this day and age, but you might be ready to build on Friday, but find out that all of your lumber and all of your tools are going to be delivered in 2 weeks. Well, it would be very helpful if you knew that 2 weeks ago and could order them so that they would all arrive on time. So when talking about build out, that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that all the products are arriving on time to get the workflow as smooth as possible. And you also want to calculate the time between when you're putting money down into your project and when you can turn a profit or at least make a sale, how you're going to survive during that time. And, if you have people working for you, how you're going to pay them. Location, obviously, that's a big one, especially when talking about, rent. Rent in New York is not the same as rent in Oklahoma. So, you have to factor that into your budget. Also, state and county laws, especially laws in between states, as we've gone over, are very different. And retail locations, you want to find the best location that's going to get you the best foot traffic. That's going to cost a little bit more money to get into. Finishing up with the why. Why would a customer choose your product? What makes you special? What makes them choose your product versus the one right next to it? Making that impression on someone is so important for your business, and you want to make sure it's done correctly. And also, why should a lender loan you the money? You're going to need money, and you're probably not going to have it unless you're just sitting on a pile of cash. So have a track record, write everything down, make sure your product, again, is a standout product, and also have something that you can invest and you can put down a value so that a bank will see how serious you are and know that they have a little bit of insurance, if nothing else. Talking about the how, this is just a good flow chart to visualize it. Take your goals and objectives. You use the 5 W's to organize those ideas into your plans. You write your expense sheet, all those things we were talking about. And then you put that into a financial projection to see, okay, this is what it's going to cost for the first year, and this is how much I can make. By year 3, this is how much it's going to cost and make, and so on and so forth. So obviously, unless you have all this in the back of your head, you're going to have to do a lot of research. And right here, I have the amount of preparation you do is inverse to the amount of time and money you will waste. The better prepared you are, the less time you're going to worry about, things not arriving on time or having to quickly get a grasp on a topic that you have nothing, you know nothing about. If you are in quarantine and you want to be in the cannabis business seriously, get started today, and that's what you're doing now. So congratulations to you. But you're going to have to stay on top of this because there's a lot to learn. If you only have an hour a day, you have your commute to work, it takes an hour. Listen to a podcast. Use your time to invest into yourself, and that you will see a return. So along with research, there's some things that we need help doing. So accounting is one of those things. Again, I'm not a CPA. Find yourself one that specifically understands cannabis law. CPA is a certified public accountant. This isn't just someone with a degree in business. This is someone who took an exam and made sure they knew what they were doing. So what these people can do is help register your business, whether it's going to be an LLC or an S Corp, making sure that you're on track, making sure that the government's not going to have a problem with how much money you're making. They're going to add value to your company, or excuse me, they're going to have a value assessment of your company to tell you what it is worth. And they're going to be able to help you out with things that are different than other businesses. If you were just running a restaurant versus running a cannabis business, you're going to have different tax codes for that because it's federally illegal. So having an accountant in your corner before you start registering your business and doing all that is very helpful. Simple consultation will do. Also, seeking legal counsel is very important. They help you stay compliant with the state so that they're happy. They help you review all of the requirements for your application because, there are certain potholes that you can fall in and that you didn't realize, and now all this money that you invested is wasted. So talk to a lawyer. They will help you minimize risk and exposure if something goes wrong and prevent something from going wrong. And they will save you money, even though you're spending money for the lawyer, in the long run, they're there to help you out. So in hiring someone, they have their specific skill set and specific duties. I want to talk about also making sure you're not spending all your money on hiring other people to do it. But that also begs the question of if you can do it well enough that you would pay somebody to do the same job that you did. Making sure that good enough is not good enough for you. Making sure that you have quality work every time you choose to do something yourself. When you are hiring a contractor, make sure that they themselves are doing the work. A lot of times I see them just delegate work to somebody they don't even know. They don't know the quality of their work that they're going to be putting out. So just be wary of that because they will charge you and they don't care. Online tutorials, YouTube University, coming to webinars like this one, that will help you out in making sure that you are doing the job that you're doing correctly. And check with your local compliance office, the city hall, to make sure what you're doing is in fact legal to do. I would hate for you guys to set up a greenhouse just to have it torn down because you didn't set the foundation correctly. or you didn't tell them. Make sure you tell somebody what you're doing. Now moving on to loans and down payments. How are you going to get the money? Banks, if you go into your local Bank of America or PNC or Chase Bank, they're not going to give you the money. And the reason because of that, the reason behind that is that it is not federally legal, like we discussed. It is illegal in the government's eyes, and all these big banks are insured by the federal government. So if they loan you the money, they don't have any insurance on that money, and their risk goes way through the roof compared to all the other loans that they're giving. Where you are able to get money, though, private lenders, these are people that will hook you up with investors, that will link you to, families or, family lending companies. Local credit unions will also sometimes give you the money at the caveat that they are going to be much higher interest rates. If your average interest rate is going from 3 to 10%, these interest rates are going to be 15 to 30%. Just to give you an idea. So the spot there people find money for their business the most is turning to the community, because banks are not reliable in that sense. So friends and family have started a lot of the dispensaries that you've seen, the cannabis grows and the farms, that has all been crowdsourced, and because the federal government won't allow us to get loans. And that's just talking about those. Having an expense sheet before you go to apply for a loan, if you do go with one of those top two or approach people who might want to invest in your company, will give you an idea of how much money you actually need. So you know, if you don't get all that money, this is how much I have to come up with. Putting together an expense sheet, that's the worst part of it. Breaking everything down into, not only how much wood you're going to need, but how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost in a month when you're ready to buy it? Your materials, your equipment, your gas, getting to and from. If you are hiring people already, how are you going to pay those people? And your startup costs, permitting and licensing. And obviously miscellaneous is things like janitorial supplies, little things that you need. Put that all on your expense sheet. Make sure it's thorough. So when it's time to go actually buy stuff, you're not surprised and you didn't forget anything. And marketing, do that too. Round up your costs, make sure you have enough. And I wanted to end this presentation. We're finally through all the business part of it. I wanted to talk about who we're working for. The customer is not always right, but they're going to buy what they feel is right. They're going to vote for your business with their dollar, right? So if you are lacking in one way or another, they're not going to go with your product. They're going to go with somebody else and help support them. And that vote for your business is whether they want to see more products of yours on the shelves. So make something that you would want to buy. Really feel your product and be true to yourself in what you think is a great product, and have high expectations for yourself. Because if you, again, say that this is good enough, people will also say this is good enough. And when something exceptional comes by, they are going to go by that instead. So be, efficient in designing your product. To bring it all together, I'd like to end with a quote from Sun Tzu: "Wars are won or lost before the battle's even fought." This is a very competitive market. This is a saturated market, and it's not one that's easy to get into. So being prepared is going to allow you to win the war that is entering the market. Making sure that you have no surprises because you prepared for all the surprises. That is going to get you to the place that you want to be, and hopefully make us all rich. So, and help people in the process, of course. So yeah, that was my presentation. I wanted to thank you all for attending. We will be having a Q&A after. So if you'd like to stay updated, you can follow me at Humble Flower Farms on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Humble the Grower. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, humbleflowerfarms@gmail.com. I'm going to be having a lot of webinars and updates, classes available. So just stay tuned. And if you got any value out of this, I appreciate you guys coming and, tell people about it, because, sharing is caring. So now we're going to move on to the Q&A. If you guys have any questions, let's pop up the chat here. And yeah, we're gonna spend a couple minutes here, 15 minutes doing this. So if you have a question, go ahead and say in the chat and I will unmute your mic so that we can have an actual conversation. And if not, I'll just stand here looking at the screen. So there's that too. Is anybody here going to start a cannabis business or thinking about starting a cannabis business after this presentation? Do you guys feel inspired or informed in the least? I would love to know. If you can't pull up your chat, it's in this menu here. Let's see. Yes, indeed. Fantastic. Joseph, would you like to talk about your vision and your business? I could unmute you.
I should unmute myself. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
shit. Or excuse me. What's up?
What's happening?
So tell me about what you're planning to do.
Well, at first I was really trying to work with CBD, and I think I still might, but just trying to work with growers and possibly, squeeze in with some of the farmers supplying maybe the dispensaries,
Right on, right on.
or just learn more about the grows, be more hands-on,
Well, definitely, luckily, since hemp is legal in all 50 states, hemp farms are, busting out of the seams with, hemp flower. What state do you live in?
I'm still in Jersey.
Still in Jersey?
The medical card, yeah.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
Well, hemp farms, I think it's legal in New Jersey. I'm not sure what the market's like over there anymore. But if you wanted to order hemp from Oregon or Colorado, they have an excess, so the price per pound on that is extremely low versus, your homegrown, you just have to factor in the transport costs. So if you did want to get started, that's something that you can look into there.
Yeah, definitely. Agriculture Act made that really, really excess surplus. But yeah, for sure.
Right on, right on. Well, do you have any more questions or anything that you want to say to all 11 of us?
No, just a lot of moving parts, and it's beautiful to talk to like-minded people,
Absolutely.
who are in the position to care about cannabis, the growth of it, and try to get the foot in the door for farmers and people who are going to suffer from the feeding frenzy that it will be, with all
Absolutely.
all the big companies, and just just trying to figure out. Well, yeah, I didn't clean it yet, but I'm in the middle of yeah.
Well, to speak on that feeding frenzy, if any of you are worried about, cannabis, of course, today they talked about making it legal federally, and you're worried about big corporations coming and buying everyone out. Obviously, that's going to happen to some extent. That's why, major beer brands are as big as they are, and you can find them in every store. But local beers and craft beers are still making a lot of money. So that's something to keep in mind if you guys are worried about that at all. As long as your product can speak for itself, those big industrial guys are going to have a hard time producing quality if they don't have it really down pat.
Yeah.
Cheers to that. So make sure you're growing some bomb
Cheers,
stuff
cheers.
or has some high quality CBD. Make
Yeah,
sure
for
that your
sure.
CBD product tastes good if you're gonna produce an edible. I know a lot of them do not. So yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Right on, right on. I don't think people were prepared for a Q&A in this at this point. But
No.
if anybody else has any questions, of course, again, feel free to contact me, humbleflowerfarms@gmail.com. I'm going to be posting this to YouTube. So if anybody has, any questions that is watching it there, again, please feel free to contact me. And with that, I think that is going to be the end of our presentation. And I wanted to, again, thank everybody for coming.